Hello and welcome to this UniTaster On Demand webinar where we're supporting students with all aspects of university guidance. This event we're going to be talking about UCAS and looking at what your options are if you've missed the UCAS deadline. I'm delighted to be joined by Jess, a higher education advisor from the University of East Anglia, to provide a really useful session for students if they have not met the UCAS deadline. What are the options? Over to you, Jess.
Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate being here today. My name is Jess. I'm one of the higher education advisors here at the University of East Anglia. So as John did mention, we are going to talk about what has happened if you have missed the UCAS deadline and what are your options. Now, for those of you who may not be too familiar with what UEA is or have heard of UEA, we are based just in the little bump of England. We are based in Norwich, and we are a campus-based university, so everything that you can see on screen at the moment is the university. So we're a campus-based university with all of your lecture theatres, seminar rooms, academic offices, and all of your facilities such as accommodation, sports park. Everything is all based on the one site. If any of you are interested in more of the science, or particularly the health sciences, just at the other end of our campus we do have the Norwich Research Park, so you can see UEA just in the middle, the city of Norwich just in the background, and then you've got the Norwich Research Park, which also houses the Norfolk and Norwich University Hospital, which is where you might be able to do some of your placements if you are thinking about doing health sciences. So we just wanted to give you just a little bit of an overview about what UEA is like and who we are before we started talking. So for many of you, and you may have heard about UCAS, you've heard about the UCAS deadlines. Obviously this year is a little bit different, and the UCAS deadline was ever so slightly extended to the 29th of January for 2021 entry. Now, if you feel that you didn't think you were going to apply to university, and as such you haven't prepared a UCAS form ready for this deadline, that's absolutely fine, because we're about to talk to you about what your options are. And if you decide in a month's time, so if you decide in February, if you decide in March that you want to go to university, there are still options available to you. Now, obviously, I am saying there are still options available to you. It does depend on what course that you are interested in. So it is unlikely that those courses and universities that had a 15th of October deadline, so medicine, dentistry, veterinary sciences, or Oxford or Cambridge, it's very unlikely that there are options available for those courses, although you are also very welcome to check on UCAS. But for the vast majority of other courses and for other universities, there are options available. So please listen and see what may be suitable for you. So if you are thinking about applying to university, you can apply through UCAS after the deadline. The only difference with the deadline that I mentioned earlier, which is the 29th of January, is that is the equal consideration deadline, which basically means that if you apply before that deadline, universities are obliged to look at your application and consider it equally with other applications that are received before that deadline. After the 29th of January, basically what happens is that your application is based on first come, first serve for any spaces that may still be available on those courses. It may be that some courses and some universities will fill up their spaces for a particular course or for many of their courses by the 29th of January deadline. However, lots will still have availability, and you can check what courses are still available on the UCAS website. So please do have a look on the UCAS website, and that should have a live update, or roughly a live update, of what courses are still available. And you can still apply through the UCAS process up until the 30th of June, as you can still see here. After the 30th of June, it kind of changes into a little bit of a different process, but what I'm about to talk about now is if you apply after the deadline of 29th of January, but up to the 30th of June. So I'm not too sure how familiar you are with UCAS, but whether or not you apply before the deadline or after the deadline, you have 5 choices as a maximum choice. So most students will choose one course at 5 different universities. However, it may be that you would like to apply for 2 courses at one university and 1 course at 3 different universities. It is completely up to you. But the one thing that we would say is please don't think that because the deadline has passed and because it is going to be a first come first served basis depending on how many spaces are available on given courses at different universities, that you absolutely have to rush in and pick 5 courses and just go with it. We're not saying that at all. You do have some time. Please do make sure that your application and the courses that you are applying for are really considered and they are what you want to do, but you will have a choice of 5 different courses that you can apply for through the UCAS process. Now, when I say the UCAS process, it is an application form, and there's a lot of things on there that you'll see that are listed here that are a given for what you'd expect on an application form. So your personal details, additional information, student finance, so whether or not you consider yourself a home student or an international student, for example, your course and your institution choices, so which course you're applying for, at which universities you're applying for, your previous education. So if you've done things like your GCSEs will need to be listed, your A-levels, your BTECs, any different types of qualifications it is that you may have will all need to be listed there. If you haven't completed your qualifications, all you'll just do is have them as pending, and the grades will be put in later on once you have gotten your grades on results day. If you have a part-time job, there is a section for employment, the all-important personal statement, which is a way that, particularly if you're not going to be interviewed by a university, how you can really sell yourself as an applicant for that course and basically say why they should pick you over anybody else for that course. You'll also have a school or college or reference for basically from your school or college where they will support your application, and then you will pay and send it. So it's actually the same process as before the deadline, but it is just that it's not with equal consideration in terms of your application. So what do universities want in terms of a personal statement? So you'll see on the previous slide, it was highlighted, and we highlight the personal statement because for many students, apart from picking which courses and which universities they want to apply to, the personal statement is the thing that they will spend the most amount of time on. And it may be one of the things that you aren't or haven't been able to get your application in before the deadline because you need to work on your personal statement, or it may be something that you decide to apply to university after the deadline anyway, but your personal statement is still absolutely essential. Okay, so when you are writing your personal statement, the main thing that we really want to see is why that course. There are thousands and tens of thousands of courses available in the UK. Why are you picking this course? You only get to pick 5 of them. Why this course? Okay, so what interests you about the subject? The other thing then that kind of goes hand in hand is how are you a suitable applicant for that course? What skills, what knowledge, what experience do you have that would make you the most desirable person to be in the lecture theatre with an academic who spent 20 years of their life dedicated to this subject? Why would you be the best person to be in that lecture theatre, in that seminar room, in that classroom, to be engaging with that subject? So is it extra or super curricular activities that you've done? Have you done any volunteering or work experience? Has your part-time job or full-time job allowed you to gain any experience? Basically, we want to see why you want to apply for the course and why you are suitable for that course. And then we normally say that about 80%, it does vary from course to course and from university to university, but about 80% should be why the course and what experience do you have. But we also want to see a well-rounded individual of what makes you you, because when you join a student body, you are also going to be taking part in that student community. You're going to be taking part in sports clubs and societies, and you're going to be a key member in that community. So what makes you you as a well-rounded individual? We normally say that's about 20%, but it does vary, and you can always check with your different universities to see how they would like the split in your personal statement. If you do have any career plans, please do feel free to mention them. It does show longevity. It does show that you are dedicated to this particular course. But don't worry, we don't expect you to have your entire life mapped out if you're still not quite too sure what you would like to do. But feel free to mention it if you do. And if you are planning on taking a gap year and you are applying for deferred entry, so you're applying now to come to university in 2022, then please do just feel free to mention what you're planning on doing with your gap year. Obviously, once you have picked your courses, you've filled in your UCAS form, you have done your personal statement, you have submitted it, your school, your college has written the reference, it then goes to UCAS, and the same UCAS application goes to all 5 of your choices if you've chosen your 5 choices. Obviously, you can choose 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 courses to apply for. It's completely up to you. But after it is gone to the different universities, this is what will happen. They will review your application. Obviously, different universities and different courses will have different processes for how they will review things. However, generally speaking, they will all come back with a handful of responses depending on what the response is to your application. One is they loved your application, they think that you are perfect to be on that course, and they're going to either offer you a conditional or an unconditional offer. A conditional is usually where you haven't got your grades yet. So you're applying now and results day isn't until the summertime. And as such, the offer is on the condition that you get 3 Bs in your A-levels, or distinction, merit in your BTEC, for example. And that's the condition of that. Less likely, because they're just less common, is that it is an unconditional offer, which is either that you've gotten your grades already and maybe you finished school last year, for example, and you're applying this year, or it may be that your application is so fantastic and your background, your academic background, your personal statement, the skills that you've got are so fantastic that actually they love you, they want you. It's an unconditional offer. Okay, but generally speaking, the more common offer is the conditional offer. One of the other responses would be a change of course offer, which may be that you've applied for the course and actually they're not too sure if you're the right fit for that course, or they think that something else may be more suitable for it. So it may be that actually you've aimed quite high and you've applied for quite a competitive course, or you've applied for a course that has a year abroad or a year in industry, for example, and the university may offer you a slightly different change of course. So they may offer you a course with a foundation year, or if you were applying for a course with a year abroad, it may be that they offer it to you without the year abroad. It may be that you're applying for a course that requires an interview. So you might be applying for something like nursing, and they like the look of you on paper, they like the look of your personal statement, but actually as part of the course, they do need everybody to be interviewed. So it may be that they like the look of you, but they're going to invite you to interview. And that's one of the other responses that you can get. Finally, one of the other, hopefully not so common responses, is that they have declined to offer you a place on the course. They've looked at your application and either perhaps they think that you're just not the best suited for that course. It may be that you didn't meet the entrance requirements, or it may be that unfortunately that course closed in between the application process and then looking at your course, for example. So those are generally speaking the most common responses that you will get from your universities. If you are invited to interview, my advice is to have a look to see what type of interview they are going to offer you, and then just basically research your institution, read around the course, research your interviewers, do some preparation in terms of mock interviews, do some practices, but basically make sure that you are prepared for your interview. And then after your interview, they will then make you one of those responses that we talked about earlier, which might be the conditional response, the unconditional response, a change of course offer, for example, or they may decline to offer you a place on the course. But it is important to note that not very many universities will interview for all of their courses, and quite often a lot of courses don't require an interview. So it is important to know when you are applying if you will need to interview for that course. Okay, it will quite often say that on a university's courses webpage. We can also speak to the admissions departments for that particular university to see if they do interview for that course. Then what will happen is that, say, for example, you apply to 5 universities and 4 of them have come back to you with a conditional offer that if you get certain grades in your results day, you can have a place in that course. Normally what will happen then is that most universities will do something similar. They might call it a different name, but what we call it UEA is an applicant day, which is basically you have applied, you have an offer for that particular course, and it will be a way that you can go back to that university, or virtually back to that university as things currently stand, and maybe ask more questions about, it's kind of like an open day, but more of an in-depth open day for your course. And it might be a way that you can go and ask more questions about the course. It may be a way that you'll ask about teaching styles or examinations. It may be that you'll ask about bursaries and scholarships, and basically just get to know a little bit more about, can I imagine myself at this university, being taught at this university? Would I be happy at this university? It's that chance and that opportunity to really go back to maybe those 4 universities, virtually or in person, depends on how things go in the next couple of months. But basically just to see whether or not which university you would be most happy to attend for those 3, 4, maybe even 5 years of your course. So we always do say this is absolutely essential if you can attend an applicant day, either in person or virtually, depending on how it is offered, because it gives you that chance basically to check, am I happy with my choices and would I be happy at this university? Once you have narrowed it down, you've been to these applicant days, for example, you've asked all of those questions, what will happen is that you will pick a firm and insurance choice. So say, for example, 4 universities have offered you a conditional offer. You have to pick which one of those 4 is going to be your first choice of university, your firm choice, and which is going to be your second choice of university, your backup choice of university. Okay, and that normally dictates that your firm choice is the one that you will go to if you get the grades to go to that university, and the insurance choice is your backup choice of university, should perhaps you not meet the requirements for your firm choice. So for example, when I was applying to university, my firm choice of university had the entrance requirements of 2 A's and 1 B in my A level, and my insurance choice had 3 B's as my requirements, just in case I needed that backup and my results day didn't go quite as well as I was hoping for. So your firm and your insurance choice will be decided. You'll make that choice on UCAS, and any other offers that you held previously from, for example, the other universities, they will no longer exist after that point. You will just hold your firm and your insurance choice. Now, there is also another way of things can happen in UCAS, which is basically that if, for example, you apply to all 5 universities and all 5 of them decided that you weren't the right fit for that university, you can use UCAS Extra, and this is for students who've been declined by all 5 of their choices. And UCAS Extra is where you can go on an individual basis to different universities and ask them if they have places and apply to those universities on an individual basis. So you'll apply to one, you'll get a response back, and then you can move on if you need to. Okay, so that is for students who have been declined by all 5 of their choices, and that also happens. Normally it opens around February, but it does vary. Please do check on the UCAS website, and that can go up to the deadline just before clearing. I do have a timeline with the exact dates in there. Don't worry, it's coming up a little bit later. On results day, obviously I know results day this year and last year may be a little bit different to what they've been in previous years, but on results day, numerous things can happen with your grades. One is that you get your grades for your firm choice, or even if you miss them ever so slightly, your firm choice still accepts you. The other one is that you've missed your grades or your conditions for your firm choice and you drop to your insurance choice and you are accepted by your insurance choice. The third option is that actually you do fantastic, a little bit better than what you were thinking of, and you exceed your firm grade. So say, for example, your firm choice of university had 3 B's as your A-level requirements or distinction merit, and actually you come out with 2 A's and a B or treble distinction, for example. You've exceeded your firm choice. Or the other option is that you have actually missed both of your firm and your insurance. And I do want to talk about some of the options that are available depending on which one it is. So if you're accepted by your firm, fantastic, great, you go to your firm choice of university. If you are accepted by your insurance choice because you've missed your conditions of your firm choice, you go to your second choice of university, absolutely fine. But there are other options for your third and fourth choice. One is that if you have missed your grades for both your firm and insurance, there is clearing. And this normally opens on the 5th of July, but particularly a lot of students will use this on results day, which is where you can go and see which universities still have spaces on their courses. And if you decide not to apply until the 5th of July, this is what you would use. You wouldn't use anything like UCAS Extra. You wouldn't use a normal UCAS form with the 5 choices. You would go through the clearing process of UCAS. Okay, there's lots of information on the UCAS website. Please do have a look on there to give you the most up-to-date information about any additional deadlines, because as I'm sure that you are aware at the moment, deadlines are changing ever so slightly because of the current situation. So please do make sure that you're having a look on the UCAS website, but also it has a lot of useful videos about what clearing is, about what UCAS Extra is, and it has a lot of helpful information. So if you're not too sure, if I haven't been explicitly clear, please do have a look on the UCAS website as well for more information. But clearing is there if you have missed your firm and insurance choice, or you're applying after the 5th of July. And then there's also adjustment, which was for option 3, which is if you have exceeded your firm offer, you can keep a hold of your firm offer, but also approach other universities individually to see if they have any spaces on their courses that you would like to apply to, particularly if these universities you thought that you wouldn't have made the grades initially and you thought that they were too aspirational, so you didn't apply to them. It may be that you can approach them to see if they have any spaces. Obviously, these are on the basis, clearing and adjustment are on the basis that they still have places left on the course, but you can explore that as well. Again, more information is available on the UCAS website. The other thing that I wanted to really highlight, because I think this is absolutely essential, is that particularly for UEA, check with your different universities, but I know that for many students who are planning to move away from home and live in university accommodation, that accommodation can be such a big consideration. You need to make sure that you've done your research. At UEA, we encourage all students who are firm or insurance to apply for their accommodation, and we do have an accommodation deadline. I think it's the end of July, but obviously we would let applicants know, offer holders know. So you must be aware of any deadlines by which you must apply for your accommodation for your chosen universities, and double check, do you need to apply for your accommodation if you are an insurance, if they are your insurance choice, basically. Now, I know that at the moment, it's quite hard to go and look at the accommodation. You're not quite too sure which one it is, but there are university YouTube channels. We have 360 videos of inside our accommodation where you can move your mouse around and have a little bit more of a view of what the accommodation is like. Look at university websites, go on things like the student room, go on the university Facebook pages and Instagram pages, just to learn a little bit more about the accommodation. But please do make sure that you are applying for your accommodation before any deadlines that are needed. And then it also may be that if you go to a university in clearing, for example, check to see whether or not those offers are made with guaranteed accommodation or not with guaranteed accommodation. So it is worth checking when you are making these decisions. Like I said, we really do encourage students to go to the applicant days. It may not be possible to go in person, depends on how the next couple of months go, but there are so many universities now offering virtual experiences. And I know that with our applicant day, you can personalize your own experience. You can go to different talks that you want to go to. There'll be 360 tours. There may be live panel sessions that you'll be able to go to. And then there will be normally subject sessions that are more in depth than maybe you've experienced previously at a general open day, where they may have just been introducing that topic to you. And quite often a lot of applicant days will have live chat platforms where you can ask any questions that you may want to ask, just to make sure that you are getting the questions that are really important to you answered before you choose your firm and your insurance choice of university. So as I did promise earlier, we do have the timeline here, which should just kind of give some of those example dates that I did mention earlier. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, 29th of January is the deadline for 2021 entry. The 11th of February is when UCAS Extra opens. One thing I didn't mention, but is also important, is that if you are applying for student finance, the deadline, that if you wish to be assessed by student finance, is normally towards the end of May if you want the money ready to go into your account by the first week of term. UCAS have just announced that normally it depends on when you get all of your offers by, but for the vast majority of students who've got their offers shortly after the deadline, or I think it's normally by sometime in May, please don't quote me on that, please do have a look on the UCAS deadlines. Quite often many students will have to pick their UCAS firm and insurance decision by the 10th of June. And any applications received after the 30th of June will be considered to be in clearing, which opens just in early July. And August is when we are expecting the vast majority of exam qualification results. However, things may change in the coming weeks and months, so please do keep an eye out on any government announcements, and please do check on the individual websites for UCAS, for student finance, and for your universities to make sure that you aren't missing any deadlines that are particularly important to you. So basically what we wanted to say in this presentation is that if you have missed the deadline, you haven't missed your chance to go to university. There are still definitely other opportunities available. So it might be that you just apply afterwards, but you just don't have equal consideration. It may be that you apply through UCAS Extra because you've already applied, but you haven't gotten those offers, or it may be that you apply through clearing. But just check with universities that you are interested in before you make an application, just to check that they still do have places on the course, that they would welcome an application and based on maybe your grades or any experience that you may have. And also have a look on the UCAS website because live courses are still available on there. Course availability can change at any point, so please do, like I said, it's first come, first serve, but please don't rush any decisions. Make sure that you are making the right decisions for you. Please do make sure that you still do need to have a good personal statement and a solid reference from your school or college. There are other options if you do miss the 30th of June deadline and when you can go into clearing. And you do have the option, if you choose to do so, of waiting this year and applying in the next cycle. So applying in the autumn of 2021 for 2022 entry. So there are still plenty of opportunities available. It is just about speaking to those universities that you're interested in and for those courses that you're interested in, and just checking to see what would be the best decision for you. If you do have any further information, if you do have any further questions, please do feel free to speak to us. There's lots of information like webinars, subject-specific webinars, where you can sign up to get information from your chosen universities. Lots of universities may have Ask a Student or Ask Academic platforms where you can ask those questions, basically to make sure that those decisions are right for you. But I really hope this presentation has allowed you to see that if you have missed the deadline, there are still plenty of options available. So thank you so much for your time.